Alrighty. Howdy neighbors and welcome to Selene Apoptosis. I don't really know too much about this game, but I do know that it has a streamer mode. I went ahead and put that on because I have so many concerns if it has to have a streamer mode. Anyway, let's start. The sound was driving him crazy. Monotonous, muffled thuds were resonating throughout his head with dull pain. The pain wasn't too strong, nothing unbearable. But that sound... More than anything else, he wanted the sound to just stop. Thud. Nevertheless, the knocking sounds didn't end. He knew it well enough, because he himself was their origin. Thud. 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 The noise of his slipper hitting the rear of his desk over and over again, like a huge fluffy moth frantically ramming against the window glass. He wanted plenty of things. He wanted to pay the rent in time this month. Not to displease the landlady again. He wanted to finish the script, at least in draft, because a draft is way better than nothing. Something one can work with. And he wanted to sleep. No, not quite that. The problem, a serious one, is that he didn't really want to sleep. He leaned back in his chair and rubbed his eyes shut, pressing his eyeballs until dancing pale lights appeared. Of course, he took the sleeping pills. When a healthy 8-hour sleep gives way to a not-so-healthy 5-hour nap, then a 3-hour eyes-shut break, then goes away entirely. You never stop thinking how this will impact your liver. You just want to sleep. You need to sleep, especially if you have already given an advance payment for your first part of a gig. And that goddamn text won't just write itself. However, if the text could, in fact, write itself somehow, he'd probably lose his job. He didn't have any illusions in that regard. As soon as natural networks get smart enough, he and dozens of other ghostwriters will vanish in the morning mist of a new era of literature. He didn't have much of a name or connections, only some skill and a knack to meet the deadlines for the most part. The client was content with this, and he was content with the pay, so everything went well until the pills started failing him. Blam. This time, the tic got too strong. His foot jerked and hit the board with very noticeable pain. It seemed like he even heard his toes crack. He muttered a short curse and rolled his chair away from the desk, although he knew that his attention is not fixed on the blank text file. The tic should go away all by itself. It's funny how the consciousness is detached from the body. You haven't thought about it, especially when having insomnia. It's like you're working as a team, but your partner starts pulling something. You seem to have common goals, but when all hell breaks loose, you are suddenly left alone with it, and your partner is more interested in watching the fire than fighting it. In the end, you have no idea what's on his mind. Well, at least there won't be any more knocking. Good. Oh, I was like, what the fuck happened? It was lightning. A small window on the far side of the room flashed white for a moment. A storm? Now that he thought about it, the day was hot. The vicious, stagnant air still filled the room. This and the barely audible squeak of an overhead network filter. He became sensitive to such things when he couldn't sleep for a long time. I mean, the entire room seemed to vibrate a little. Like a cocoon that's about to hatch. Actually, that did sound like a good line. He rolled back to the table and was about to write that thought down, but paused over the keyboard. He remembered the individual words and the general idea, but the senses had already slipped away. This time the white light seemed to fill the entire room. Then a thunder followed, resembling a low gut roar of something large and famished. Good lord. He called to God way too often for someone who never goes to church. It's a habit he inherited from his mother. Same, though. The furious patter of raindrops pounded on his window. There was no way he could work like this. I'm gonna be completely honest. I am one of little sleep, as it happens. As you can probably tell by my recording times. But I find that I actually work best when there is a natural noise instead of like a podcast or something. So like if it is raining, I actually get a lot more work done than I do when it's just like listening to a video. Which is weird because typically it's supposed to be the other way around. But yeah. Take a sip of your GamesRHard juice. Let's go. Not now. But maybe that's for the best. Since he was a little boy, he slept well during storms. I had to seize the moment. He groped for a pack of sleeping pills. Nice to have your working tools at hand. Popped the pills into his mouth, opened the window to hear the steady patter of rain. Then he went to bed and collapsed on top of the bed sheets, his clothes still on. I know it's supposed to be kind of spooky, but now that I'm here, I don't like it. He woke up by the sound the water had flooded the windowsill. It was trickling down to the floor. No. He decided it was a small price to pay. At least put, like, a towel or a bin or something under the window. Like an actual bin, not like a trash can. He felt a pleasant chill of cloth beneath his cheek. The wavering haze was gradually fading from the room. Yet the sleep did not come. He tried to take off his shoes, change positions, take a pillow, cover himself, throw the pillow away to the other side of the room. Nothing helped. He just laid there with his eyes closed. And though his closed eyelids felt heavy, he knew it was an illusion. All in vain. He was not sleeping. He can't sleep. Thud. At first he thought it was imagining things. The squares? I feel like the squares are important. Thud. 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 Sometimes the knocking paused, but it never stopped completely. The sound came from below, from the first floor. It was banging incessantly on the door. And with each thud, he could feel the rage building up like a tight knot of pain around his stomach. He is trying to sleep. Is it really that hard to just leave a man alone? At least at night. At least in the house that he pays for, specifically so that no one could bother him. He opened his eyes. Easy, just as he thought, straight to his feet and ran down the stairs. Grab a towel. Something was boiling inside of him. Halfway to the door, he took a turn for the cupboard and pulled out an old baseball bat. Fuck, yeah, kill him. He wasn't likely to actually use it. He asked himself if he would, as he reached for the door handle. No, he certainly wouldn't, but he's angry, and he wants his night guest to learn it. What the hell? The rain is still pouring, or rather it was actually getting stronger. As his mother would say, and the floodgates of heaven tore open. His mother used to say that. His mother used to say a lot of things. That was on the list of reasons why he had to rent this overpriced house where everyone could start banging on the door in the middle of the night. A cat, for example. What the hell? He said it again, this time aloud. A cat was standing on his porch. Uh-huh. She looked like a purebred British short hair, in all respects, good for the color. Aside from the smoky gray head, it seemed that she was dropping into a vat of white paint, while her lower part still dipped into a black one. Wet fur clung to her small, rather skinny body, dripping with water. What the fuck is happening? The cat could have probably slipped into the house as soon as the door opened, but instead she froze, as if waiting for the host to say something. No. It'll be raining in soon. No. No. Fine, I'll take the person. Goddamn. Raining cats and dogs. Fuck off. Fuck off. It was cold outside. Much colder than one might think. He didn't feel angry anymore. I come in. Our name is He. He stepped aside, freeing the doorway. The cat didn't move. So, you don't want to, huh? He was about to say fine then and close the door, go back to the second floor, and lie in a suffocating half-sleep until morning. Happens. But he finally realized what was wrong. The bat. He threw it away, aimed for the sofa but missed. The bat clattered on the floorboards. The cat followed it into the darkness, with her round yellow eyes. The sounds didn't frighten her. He sighed. I won't hurt you. Come in if you want. The cat raised her eyes to him. For the first time, he actually saw. But it didn't help admiring how big and yellow they were. Can I see the eyes, or what? The cat's pupils were also large and incredibly round, like 2 full moons in an eclipse. And just as he was about to close the door for the second time, the cat murmured something and fluttered into the house, butting him with her wet head as she passed by. He smiled. Strictly speaking, it's this very moment his line had ended. If the landlady found out, and he was sure she would, he'd have to look for a new place to live. There's plenty of lonely, bored seniors in the neighborhood, he thought. And they only have 2 hobbies, observing and reporting. The subject and the recipient aren't that important. Well, that's fine. Maybe he'd leave the suburbs. Maybe he'd move into an apartment, since him getting privacy didn't work out anyway. The rain was getting stronger still. He closed the door. I think I have a cat? Question mark? The cat explored the house with cautious curiosity, stopping by different objects as if trying to understand their purpose. Watching that was amusing. So amusing he even forgot about the stain. When he remembered, it was already spread out, a dark spot of water, in a place where the cat clung to him. He pulled the wet cloth away from its body and started blinking, or blankly, for a moment, and almost groaned aloud. The cat was soaked, so she probably got a lot of dirt in the house. Instead not to turn on the lights, he had enough disappointment for the night. Instead, he went to get a towel. Come here. Literally, what is wrong with us looking at her face? Why is it such an issue? The cat turned her head to the voice in frozen place. She was examining the TV, a lifeless black mirror with a plasma panel and a lacquer frame that he hadn't even touched since moving in. In the reflection, the cat herself looked back. She gave him a long, appraising look, and then, with a sudden eagerness, trotted toward him, deftly avoiding the obstacles. I love it when my cat does this. I know we all know this already, but fun fact, I have a black cat. Her name is Pepper. She is the love of my life. I get home, and every day it's the exact same. I have a real job. And I get home, and she goes to the same spot on the sofa every day when I get home, so that way I can go up to her, I can pick her up, and I can give her hugs. And we do that every day. And then after dinner, after her dinner, and then after my dinner, she'll wait for me to finish eating. Anyway, we will look at each other, and then I'll say, I'm done, and she will trot over in the exact same way. And it's great, and it's amazing. And I love it. Get a cat. Cats are great. But they also suck, but cats are great. I was surprised. Maybe the cat decided he was more interesting than the TV. Or maybe she acted out of respect for her host's will. Anyway, he was grateful. Finally, someone he can actually negotiate with. Suddenly he thought how nice it would be to crawl under the blanket with a warm ball of fur. That would surely have helped him to fall asleep. As a child, he had a cat. Gray, huge, brash, immensely ugly, and equally beloved. He often fell asleep hugging him. The cat's name was Timo. Oh, that's cute! And he faded into a June night many years ago. Oh, not Timo. The cat bumped her wet head against him once more. He thought that cats usually shake off the water themselves. No, they don't. Usually, but perhaps not always. Hey, easy there. You're all wet. The cat looked up at him with her moon-shaped eyes and murmured something again. Do something about it, then. He smelled the got to work. He had to squeeze the fur thoroughly, so the towel soon turned into a wet rag. Should he... Technically, you're not supposed to bathe the cat? Because cats... Fun fact about cat. They have to do it themselves. Like, they have special bacterium or whatever in their saliva. And so they lick themselves and it's already fine. Like, you don't have to bathe them. Some people do. Like, when the cat gets older, you do have to. Because they, like, become a lot less mobile. But you're really not supposed to. Bathe the fucking cat. After I just told you all the reasons why you should not bathe the cat. Bathe the fucking cat. I wouldn't do. I'll give you a bath. Because if you want to snuggle with this cat, we gotta make sure the baby is clean. As he carried her to the bathroom, the cat stayed still in his arms, a warm and incredibly light body pressed against his chest. He was expecting the cat to bring out the claws at any moment. Maybe as he opened the door. No. Or as he turned on the light. Maybe this time. But nothing happened. The cat glanced around the new room and looked at him again with her intelligent, almost human-like gaze. Not a single muscle in her small body moved. She was curious, and that's about it. She trusts me. The poor, poor fool. I was about to ask her if she knows where they were and what was going to happen next. But that was just too much. So, it shouldn't be very difficult. Ye of foolishness. The two of us can manage this. What do you think? He read somewhere that a cat should get used to new surroundings before bathing. Fear is born out of the unknown, and in that regard, people haven't gone too far from cats. The sense of familiar objects and the splashing of water. These are just shadows under the bed that will fall back if you get a better look at them. Carefully put the cat on the floor. She looked around the room again and returned her questioning eyes to him. He seemed like she felt comfortable enough. He turned on the water in the shower, felt a gentle touch. The cat was already loitering around his feet. She was curious indeed. The shower isn't so bad compared to the rain, is it? The show came out a little awkward. Sure did. He felt embarrassed and didn't know why. Human cat. This is why you enable streamer mode. She's just a cat. Maybe it was because of how the water glistened on her skin, or how she was looking at him from under half-lowered lashes. She was actually watching. He met her eyes, and each time felt shame burn through him. But that shame was thick and sweet. He was a little dizzy. His hand slid over her smooth, wet skin, and each time he would ask himself, was it really necessary? Then he would feel her eyes on him, and his thoughts would melt, running down her thighs with the lather, disappearing between her neat toes. I think you mean her beans. The bathroom shimmered, molten bright, pulsating with light or darkness. He felt he was losing his balance, and pulled his hand away. She returned and pressed it to the wet, hot skin, covered in the soapy veil. Nope. He couldn't remember how it ended up in the living room again. The cat was napping peacefully in his arms. He absently ran his hand down the cat's wet back, tracing the bumps of her spine with his fingers. I should get you some food. Let me see what I have. He got up, with just a tad bit of difficulty. Nothing he couldn't handle. Still, his body felt unusually heavy and unwieldy. He had to give the cat something to eat. He will lie down afterward, and then, hell, maybe he'll even fall asleep. Maybe he should have gotten a cat from much earlier. A ball of fur with a pair of moon eyes and a velvety voice that you can always negotiate with. That's about it. It's kind of funny. He could have avoided all the suffering if only he had a cat. The kitchen blurred before his eyes. He got to the refrigerator and opened it, squinting from the light and leaning on the door way harder than he was supposed to. If the landlady was around at this time, she would have told him exactly so. Don't lean on the door. After all, this was her house and her refrigerator, and everything should be neat and tidy in case she has to move new tenants in. Perhaps the landlady would have even warned him about the milk. Milk itself is completely harmless, unless, of course, you're allergic to lactose. But there's a special kind of lactose-free milk, right? What matters is the bottle. Bottles, much like cats, can vary greatly, but this particular one was made of glass. If only the landlady was here, she would probably have told him not to touch the bottle, because he's falling on the floor, and the bottle might break, and then the milk will spill, and he will have nothing to feed the nice cat he found. Or rather, it was her who found him, and very timely because he was laying on the floor. He was laying there for some time, and would have been lying still if he hadn't felt the light touch of something hot and rough on his cheek. It was almost like a dream, Although, of course, comparing sleep with fainting isn't quite correct, no matter how you look at it. The floor beneath him was surprisingly hard, cold, and wet. He felt all those three qualities clearly, and was afraid to imagine what happened if he tried to move. But he had to move one way or another, at least to see what's up, because something hot and rough was still sliding up his cheek, gradually creeping up to his ear. He felt a warm breath, and then a cautious bite. What the fuck? Ouch. He jumped on the spot. Shadow rushed to the side, and then calmly began to lap the milk from the puddle. Okay, she does have a tail. Okay, now I'm starting to see the cat. Tail and ears. The cat. What are you doing? He looked at him briefly and licked her lips. Hello, we have voices. No need to be this dramatic. You're lying there idly, and you're not even a cat, see? Besides, you're soaked in milk. Well, you're right. I let you down, and had to get my punishment. I let myself down, too. Good lord, now there's cleaning to do until the next advent, like his mother would have said. I'll get a rag. Stay here and don't ruin what's left of the kitchen while I'm gone. I watched him go with a skeptical look. Aren't you the one who's causing all the trouble so far? And he returned with the bucket. The cat was gone. You said you were going to get a rag. Why do you have a bucket? The Theater of presents How to Bake. Feck off! In the kitchen, something exciting has happened. What the fuck is going on? Take feck off. Oh no. You will need a blade. Did you take the pills? Scratch out the entrails. The Egyptians wildly used honey for embalming and preserving food. Later, the recipes were adapted by the Greeks. Also add a teaspoon of apricot jam, a walnut, and a little cinnamon. Before baking, put a teaspoon of butter on top of the feck off. Microwave for 45 minutes at full power. I'm so scared. Don't listen to them scream. Oh! 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 Oh no! I hate it! Leave me alone. Bone ape tit. Oh god, I already hate it. The next time we saw her was in a few days, or maybe in a week. What am I even talking about? He was at passes of time, especially when he was immersed in his work. He still couldn't sleep. At least he was making some progress with the script. It was a narrative game project, as the customer called it, but actually meant do whatever you have to finish it on time, or else forget about the payment. So he did, although he was resentful, and that got in the way a lot. The reason for those feelings was the cat. What in the fuck? He knew how stupid it was, but he couldn't help it. He forgave her for the bite almost immediately. That wasn't the thing. He was bitter about how the cat ran away, despite him trying his best to take care of her. She was nowhere to be found in the house, so he immediately thought about the open window on the second floor. I don't know. It might be in the butter of feck off. Maybe I should have closed it. He dwelled on the thought for a while. He even approached the window at some point, but in the end he decided not to do anything about it. It was open, and there was no shame in that. It's not the same as you turn up 10 and start eyeing girls. The cat would come back. If she did. He had just settled himself on the sofa with some book. Some was the word, as he couldn't remember a thing from the cover, even though he read the title several times. The symbols were floating before his eyes, and of course he couldn't make out a word. No wonder, considering he didn't sleep at all. When I think about it, it was surprising he could write in this state. Either way, he was barely following the book, so he wasn't upset at all when the fluffy head butted his hand. Hey, I'm trying to read here. Oh, hi! Now we can get a good look at those eyes. And you don't seem to be getting anywhere. What does it matter anyway? I feel like I need to turn up. Let me hear you. What does it matter anyway? Well, it's all the way up. You saw me do it. Better scratch me right here. He complied. Pet the cat. Look at the baby. You're absent for so long. I thought you won't be back. Then why didn't you close the window upstairs? There's a big difference between expectations and hopes. He learned that well. Why'd you leave? Did I do something wrong? The cat stays silent. Although, it doesn't really matter that much. I'm happy to have you back. After all, there was no point in his grudge from the start. Nobody gains anything from holding on to small grudges and staying blind to what they really feel. He won't have won anything. It's not a damn lottery. The cat rubbed against his arm again, put the book down and gently placed her on his lap. Felt looking at her neck, and I felt like cold touched his skin. And he got a hunch. Do you have a home? I have no home. Well, someone must be caring about you if they put that collar on you. Sometimes a collar's just a collar. Don't you know? This time it was him who stayed silent. Cat buried her head in his stomach. Want me to take it off? No. It is mine now. Besides, it's easier this way if I catch someone's eye on the streets. He nodded because, if you think about it, it really was a reasonable choice. The cat's fur was thick and smooth, very pleasant to the touch. He wanted to bury his face in it, find out what it smelled like. What she smells like. And we're not creepy. Do you have a name? Of course. Everything has a name. What's yours? Cat looked at him carefully, with her bright yellow eyes, as if saying, take a yes. She didn't actually say anything. I liked there was a small engraving, a crescent moon that was dimly shining in a pale light coming out of the window. Selene. He looked up at him. Pupils flickered into 2 full moons in an eclipse. She rubbed against his arm one last time and stood up, stretching, arching her back.
Don't
close the window on the 2nd floor. I won't. She left, but the name stayed with him and around the house. Selene. So hummed the glass, white in the moonlight. So whispered the long shadows of branches outside the window. Focus! What is Selene? For some reason, the question bothered him. Vaguely remembered, it had something to do with the mythology. Such things never really caught his interest, but fortunately, he knew someone he could turn to. What up, bitch? This is Selene. This is gonna be Selene too. Hope. Hi. Where is your nose? You know when you play like with a little baby and you're like, got your nose? I feel like they never gave her nose back. And she needs one of those. What's the red dot in the corner? Oh. And now the red dot is gone. Meanie. You know I can't stand them. Ethan? Who's Ethan? And you know it's me who will have to take care of it after all. You're basically living in the office. Ethan never liked cats. And the dogs too. Not much of a difference. He didn't like the very idea of keeping a predator in home. Even a small one. He couldn't quite explain why. Hope sighed. She closed the tab with the Cattery's website, slapped her husband lightly on the shoulder. Even so, the face of the Persian cats, deeply depressed and equally concave, still lingered in her mind's eye. Ethan held up his hands in a conciliatory gesture. He knew it wasn't over yet. Hope was not one to give in this easy. She never was. But for him, there was something incredibly appealing about this. Come to think of it, quite possible it'll be him who capitulates in the end. In a relationship, you always have to sacrifice something. 4.5 years, or even 5 according to Hope. He had to learn that quite well. Suddenly Hope frowned, looking at the screen. Seems like you got an email from. Damn, tough one. Can't quite read it. You just hit your work mailbox. Let me see, Hope got a new project. The Middle Ages are fine and all, but they're about to start pouring out of my ears. Ethan reached for his laptop, but Hope grabbed it and dodged him. Right. Why don't we talk about contracts on a Sunday evening? And which one of us is all work and no play, huh? Well, such is the benefits of freelance. Come on, give back. Hope giggled and leaned over the armrest, hanging over the floor. Hope's defenses withstood several more attacks. Each time Ethan thought the laptop would definitely hit the floor. Then she gave Ethan a peck on the cheek and slid off the couch. The laptop returned to its owner. Alright, I give up. I mean, what if they'll actually give you a new contract? But on the same old Middle Ages. Not that'd be a twist. Yeah, hilarious one. But there was nothing about the Middle Ages in the letter. Not mention of payment either. Ethan read it several times. Leaving the formalities aside, there was but one question in the letter. Ethan, or the part of him that was responsible for finding the accurate answers, got immediately engaged by the wording. What is Selene? Ethan rolled the question around in his mouth as if tasting it. At a glance, the answer is simple. Ethan's real passion was the early Renaissance, but he was a history consultant after all. At least, he liked to think of himself that way. The agency was paying him for a reason. He needed no research to tell that Selene was the goddess of the moon in the ancient Greece. The question, however, seemed to be way more intricate in its nature. Or at least that's what Ethan wanted to think, because the Middle Ages were actually about to start pouring out of his ears. He was always driving into his work completely, and living in an age where madness, curse, and death are contagious in the exhausting trial. He needed some distraction. Of course, he had a part-time job with those online courses, but the platform where he lectured wasn't planning anything new just yet. All in all, the request looked interesting, if not for one small matter: the payment, or rather the lack thereof. Ethan hesitated. The sender's name seemed familiar. He searched the email address and found they had already worked together on a couple of texts. Both times his efforts were duly paid for by the agency. Ethan never worked for free. It was indispensable, or rather a matter of necessity. The problem was the fact that Ethan loved what he was doing too much, and if you were trying to make money from what you love, it's a slippery slope. A free service then, an unpaid consultation here, and then you go back to splitting the sheet protectors 8 hours a day, watching your dreams rust away. Besides, Ethan didn't want to let Hope down. Of course, she supported him when he decided to go freelance, but Ethan never wanted to take advantage of that. No, that won't do. He works only under contract, and does not give free consultations. Just as he was right to give that as a response, Hope's fair head popped from behind the door. Are you coming? On the walk, Hope brought up the cat thing a few more times. Ethan protested it absently. His thoughts went back to the letter again and again, to that question. The more he thought about it, the more he wanted to find the answer. It was no longer a matter of helping an acquaintance whose name Ethan immediately forgot. No. It was Ethan himself who needed a little help with distraction and an answer. It was a weird thing to do, but Ethan waited until Hope was fast asleep. Only then did he sneak over to his laptop to write a response. Certainly he had no real answer as of yet. He threw in a dozen polite words, the general meaning of which was he had taken up the case, and then clicked send. When Ethan returned to bed, Hope was still breathing slow and deep. He listened to her breath for a while, trying not to think that he had broken his own rule. After all, he really needed distraction. No matter the strength of your affection, sooner or later you will want to take a break. It was another thing that he learned over the past 4.5 years. If Ethan had to point out when things started to be off, he would say it was on Saturday. That is, about a week after the first letter. But this, of course, wouldn't be accurate. Those weird things started happening almost immediately after he pressed the send button. The first night he saw a room in his dreams. Oh. His chipped white ceiling and similarly rough walls lit with fluorescent lamps. Ethan couldn't see the lamps themselves, but he recognized the cold shimmering light. They often used those lamps in the office. The light filled the room to the brim. Ethan thought it was about to burst, and the light would slash all over the room, just like the juice of a squished tomato. Apart from the walls and the light, the room had a red sofa. The sofa stood a bit aside from the center, not too large, quite faded, flooded with shimmering white light. This light made the sofa seem to be trembling a little, and the room trembled with it. Suddenly, Ethan thought it would be way better if the sofa was standing right in the middle. He felt something on his temple, a touch. He had to flinch, scream, stumble to the side, yet he couldn't. He was paralyzed. Only his eyes could move, and they desperately tried to reach beyond his field of vision, where something was touching his temple. I don't want anything to do with this, actually. I'm so good. I'm the best I've ever been, thank you. Ethan felt a faint flow of air, as if someone was whispering in his ear. He did hear the whisper, just one word. Ethan no longer remembered what the word was when he jumped in his bed, gasping for air. Hope muttered something in her sleep and turned to the other side. It took a long time to go back to sleep, but by morning, Ethan did pass out. And when he woke up, the dream wiped out of his mind pretty quick. The task at hand interested him much more than some muck spilling out of his subconscious. He was thinking about the task while he was chewing on the morning toast, driving to the bank, and on the way back. It was just like a Christmas present waiting for its time in the closet. The more you tell yourself you shouldn't think about it, the more you do. At home, Ethan tried to stick to his plan, working on the project he was paid for, but ended up sitting over a single report for several hours. He couldn't squeeze out a letter. The hell with it. After all, it was almost done with his current project. It wouldn't be much of a problem if he presented the results a bit later on, wouldn't it? Besides, it was really time for him to take a breather. One couldn't be spending so much time in a world where madness, curse, and death are contagious. The hell with it, Ethan thought as he closed the files on the project he was paid for. There was plenty of information, but Ethan knew he would not get an answer right away. The accurate answer, just like the precious pearls, lay at the depths. He had to go down to the very bottom. Ethan was not afraid. Oh, you and I are not the same. He had done it many times. His counterpart might have to wait for a week or so, but Ethan knew he'll manage to crack the riddle. Hate that. What he didn't know is what else could be found at those great depths. A shark. And at some point in the investigation, things started happening. Instead of hearing sparse phrases, even though he never turned on TV or radio, Nope wasn't even at home. When he sat in front of the screen, once again trying to connect the dots of his research, he could feel someone looking at the back of his head. When he turned around, of course there was no one in the house. Eventually he taught himself not to turn around. He just got angry, pushing fingers into his temples, when the familiar feeling appeared again. He started losing things. Or rather, things would disappear and then appear in the strangest places. One day he found his pencil in the freezer, stuck in a mincemeat briquette. Even when the briquette melted down, he couldn't pull the whole pencil out. All Ethan got was a bloody stump. At this point, he could stop and think of it. But got distracted by the coffee maker and mindlessly shoved the stump into the trash bin. There was something wrong in the shadows, too. They became sharper, thicker, and deeper. And it was the case in the whole apartment. Sometimes they moved. Of course, Ethan only felt like they were moving. It couldn't have been the other way around. Ethan didn't really pay attention to any of this, just like he did with the dream he had. All of that seemed very familiar, as he already experienced similar things during the periods of intense work, when his nervous system was exhausted by the workload. There always was a rational explanation: the stress, or those new, much more environmentally friendly light bulbs that Hope had installed all around the apartment. Besides, it's so easy to dismiss these sorts of things when you're deeply invested into something, and this question really got Ethan involved. Every time he seemed to get it right, his thought went off. Like he was climbing a rock, but a safe ledge suddenly turned slippery. Next thing he knew, he was at the bottom again. He never faced anything like that during his previous research. There were times he would spend weeks or months looking for the right answers. There were the tricky cases, but at least he could always tell how his research was progressing. This time, as he stumbled in his tracks, without knowing why, and what... Oh, and that was all he could tell. The week was over, but he still had nothing to send back to his contact. In reply, Ethan asked a couple of questions. Not that he was really interested, just as a courtesy. That's how the surprisingly exciting email conversation started. With this, Ethan's contact grew to be something more. Something of a friend, maybe. He never asked how Ethan's work was progressing. That was the question Ethan asked himself. The answer was never good for him. Of course, he started sleeping badly. Falling asleep was easy. He woke up many times during the night, sometimes in cold sweat. Ethan could not remember his dreams. That night, he woke up about 3 or 4 times. At first, Ethan was lucky enough to fall asleep almost immediately after he woke up. But at some point, his eyes got opened again. This time, the sleep wouldn't come. Ethan felt terribly thirsty. He found no slippers on the usual spot. The noise would wake up Hope, so he decided not to look for them, and only regretted it when approaching the kitchen. The floor was bloody cold, so cold that Ethan unconsciously looked down. Why? When he was looking up again, he saw a shadow. No doubt the shadow belonged to a woman. A naked woman. Ethan could clearly see... Okay. I wonder, it's freezing cold here. The shadow moved slowly along the wall, floating in a rectangular pool filled with moonlight. She was dancing. She was dancing and humming, and the humming silence in Ethan's ears was her music. He was watching her, unable to move. He was paralyzed, just like back then in his dream. But he did not remember it. At that moment, he didn't remember anything at all. Couldn't think about anything at all. What is this? He felt an itch in his eyes, and the momentary urge to blink. For a fraction of a second, he could only see the thick, viscous dark, and when he opened his eyes again, there was no shadow anymore. The glowing rectangle shifted its place and now lay on the kitchen floor at Ethan's feet. He could see the cold white light flowing through the seams between the tiles on the floor. For some reason, he took a deep breath and then stepped forward into the rectangular light. Nothing happened. And what was supposed to happen? What did he really see? Did he really see something? He walked deeper into the room, much bolder, grabbed the decanter, started to drink in big, greedy sips. Water streamed down his chin and chest, hitting the tiles on the floor, poured into the grooves of the seams. No, that wasn't an illusion. The kitchen was completely empty, and the floor felt warm again. And yet it wasn't an illusion. That was the beginning of and all this was begging for a rational explanation. That's why Ethan decided he should talk to Hope in the morning. And this is where I'm going to end the episode. Wow. Okay. What is this? The devil is made of clay and tomato soup, just like any human being. Cool. Okay. Something changed. Okay, cool. Alrighty. I'm gonna end the episode there. I don't know what that is. Okay. I'll figure it out later. So thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you later.